A story from old India. The highways of old India were more dangerous than most. Not only were there tigers and other large or poisonous creatures, for an unwary travelers, unwary means not alert of possible dangers. So, for an unwary travelers to contend with, but also bands of thugs. Thugs were highway robbers who used the roads as their hunting grounds. These thugs made friends with travelers, offering to ride with them as a protection against the bandits. Then, at a chosen spot, the thugs would strangle their victims, means they would hold their throat tightly and choke them to death, rob their bodies, bury them without trace. Legends grew up about monsters that lay in wait by the roadside. One such story is the son of the Ogress. Ogress is a female monster. The land of India is vast and its roads are long and lonely. In the olden days, travelers were right to be fearful because robbers and bandits lay in wait at the sides of the dusty highways, while ogres and angry spirits lurked in the forest glades and the mountain passes. Prudent travelers journeyed in groups in the hope of protecting one another. The man who walked the roads alone did so anxiously and forever glanced over his shoulder. In those distant, dangerous days, a Brahmin priest, though necessity, had to travel alone towards Benares. Living in a cave near the side of the road was a creature known as a yaka. She had the body of a woman but the head of a horse. She was wild and greedy and powerful and lived by eating human flesh. This terrible yaka seized the Brahmin and carried him to her cave, intending to eat him, as she had eaten so many other unfortunate people. However, the man was young and very handsome, and the yaka liked him very much. She said she would spare his life if he would marry her and live with her in the cave. The Brahmin chose what seemed to be the lesser of the two evils and agreed to marry the dreadful creature. Surely, soon I shall find a way to escape, he thought, and this nightmare will be over. The yaka was cunning and cautious. She never left the cave without rolling a huge boulder to block the entrance. The Brahmin was a prisoner for several years, shut in the dark and the damp and yearning to return to life of the town. Yearning means longing for returning to the life of the town. It was true that Yaka made every effort to improve her behavior. Under the influence of the gentle Brahmin, she gave up eating human flesh and ate fruits and grain in its place. She drank wine instead of drinking human blood. However, she still lurked at the side of the road and obtained what she wanted by robbing the caravans of travelers. She and the Brahmin continued to live in the rough cavern. Cavern is a large cave, its walls dripping with water, far away from the pleasant company of human folk. A baby was born to Yaka. He was a beautiful boy. Fortunately, like his father, and both the Yaka and the Brahmin loved him dearly. One day, when Yaka was out hunting, the boy said to his father, "Why is my mother's face so different from ours?" "Because your mother is an ogress and we are human men," replied the Brahmin. The boy asked, "Why do we stay continually in the dark of this damp cavern when the yellow sunlight shines outside?" "Because your mother is strong and will not let us leave when she is away. She rolls that huge boulder across the mouth of the cavern," replied the Brahmin. "Why do you not push the boulder aside that we may escape?" asked the boy. "The boulder is huge and I am not strong enough to move it," replied the Brahmin. At that, the boy smiled and, getting up, put his young shoulder to the stone and rolled it aside with ease. He was, after all, the son of his mother and had her strength. Taking his father by the hand, the boy led the way out into the sunlight, and the two of them hurried as fast as they could towards Benares. However, the sunlight dazzled them. After their life in the darkness of the cavern, they stumbled, and even the boy felt weak. Before long they heard the thud of the Yaka running behind them. She seized them both. "My dearest son and my beloved husband," she wept, "how could you wish to leave me? Do I not work and fight every day to give you everything you need? Do I not collect soft moss and ferns for your beds? Do I not bring wine and dates for you to eat? Oh, thankless ones, why do you run away?" "Mother," replied the boy, "it is true you bring us many delightful things, but we need light and air. Living in the dark is terrible for us." "Very well," agreed the Yaka. "Return with me, and I will break the boulder at the mouth of the cavern. You may both walk in the sunshine and wander beneath the trees." In truth, having little choice, the boy and the Brahmin returned with Yaka. She kept her promise and from that day on, the man and the boy enjoyed the fresh breezes and the sunshine whenever they wished. If they ventured too far from the cavern, they heard the heavy thudding of the yucca feet behind them, and they were dragged back to live obediently under her gaze. The boy, being the son of his mother, was able to learn her secrets. As he grew older, he came to know that the power of yucca spread only as far as the river in one direction, and 3 leagues to the mountains in other direction. "Father," whispered the boy one evening, "do as I say, and tonight we will escape. I can no longer live in this loneliness, away from the voices of people." When night had fallen and the ogress was in her deepest sleep, the boy led the Brahmin out of the cave. They ran their fastest and were at the side of the river before they heard the yucca in pursuit behind them. The Brahmin was exhausted, but the strong young son picked up his father and carried him across the river to safety. Only then did he turn his head and look back. The yucca stood on the far bank and wept. "How shall I live without you?" she cried. "Come back to me." "Never," called the boy. "We are going to live in the land of humans." Then, realizing that she had lost them forever, the yucca called across the flowing river, "My dearest child, take this talisman." A talisman is an object with a magical power. Here it is a pendant. "My dear child, take this talisman to help you on the hard way through life. Hang it round your neck. Through its power, you will be able to see footsteps made by men even after 12 years. She threw a necklace with a stone pendant across the river. A pendant is a piece of jewelry hanging from a chain. The boy picked it up and put it on. He thanked his mother and said goodbye to her. Then he and the Brahmin turned their backs and saw her never again. Happy in their new freedom, the father and son walked into Benares, straight to the king's palace. There they asked to see the Grand Vizier. A vizier is a high official working for the king. The son of the ogress bowed and said, "I have the power of seeing footsteps. Set me to guard the king's treasure's house. If any robber breaks in, I shall be able to follow his footsteps and get back the treasure. The king need fear thieves no more." The Grand Vizier gave this news to the king, who showed great interest and sent for the Brahmin and his son to stand before him. "What do you want for guarding my treasure house?" the king asked. He desires 1,000 rupees a day, replied the Grand Vizier. The king hesitated. It was a high sum. However, the treasure house was full of gold and jewels, and the world was full of thieves. Very well, agreed the king. For some months the boy and his father lived happily at court, enjoying the company of men and the luxuries of palace life. No thief went near the treasure house, for talk of the boy who could see footsteps had spread throughout the land. Then, one hot day, as he sat longing for the touch of a cool breeze, the king said to the vizier, I am restless at paying so much money to that boy. How do we know he really can see footsteps? He may be an impostor. An impostor is a person who pretends to be someone else. He may be an impostor, said the king. Let us rob the treasure house ourselves tonight and see if the boy has the powers he claims. The vizier agreed. That night, he and the king broke into the treasure house, took several bags of gold and jewels, walked 3 times round the gardens, and put the sacks in a tank of water. The next morning, they went for the son of the Yaka. Boy, said the king, the royal treasure house has been robbed. Now let me see you follow the footsteps and retrieve my riches. Certainly, my lord, smiled the boy, and wearing the necklace with the stone pendant given to him by his mother, he walked to the treasure house. There, on the ground, he clearly saw the footsteps of 2 men. He followed them 3 times round the garden and stopped at a tank of water. Send a man in here, he said, and you will find the missing riches. This was done, and the watchers murmured with wonder and clapped their hands as the sacks were taken from the bottom of the tank. However, the king was still displeased. He no longer wished to pay large sums of money to the boy. This is all very well, he blustered. Means talked in a very loud and forceful way. But anyone might have guessed that tank of water was a good hiding place for a stolen jewels. Can you find the thieves, my boy? That is the real test. As it happened, the son of Yaka had already recognized the footsteps as those of the king and the vizier, who naturally wore shoes finer than those worn by anyone else in the land. The boy hesitated to say who the thieves were, as it was shameful that the 2 such noble men should be thieves and deceivers. Deceivers, one who mislead others. Does it matter who the thieves are? He asked. The treasure is regained. Surely that is the important thing. At this, the king felt sure that the boy really had no magic powers, and indeed did not know who had taken the treasure. Feeling secure and hoping to expose the boy as a fraud means one who does wrong things or cheats others, and thus avoid paying him, the king insisted. Find the thieves. They deserve to be punished. If you cannot follow the footsteps of the thieves and say who they are, I shall no longer pay you. Still the son of Yaka hesitated, for it is unwise to offend kings. The names, jeered the king. Give me the names of the thieves, or I shall have you declared a fraud. At that the boy pointed towards the king and the grand vizier. You are the thieves, he said. The footsteps led to you. All the onlookers were shocked to learn that their respected ruler and the chief of the ministers could stoop to such trickery, such act of cheating. Word spread through the city that the king and the vizier were not fit to occupy the positions of trust and honor. They were deposed and exiled, and the throne was given to the boy who was the son of an ogress. End of the story.